My family abandoned me when I got cancer and asked for help, but my lesbian best friend worked 2 jobs to save my life. When I finally told her I loved her, she laughed and whispered, "God, I've been waiting years for you to catch up." I just held her. That was 4 months ago. This morning, we burned the money and watched our shadows leave with the smoke. Jess and I have been best friends since we were little kids, and she's been there for every important moment in my life. She stayed by my side through bad relationships, helped me get through what my grandfather did to me, and tons of other stuff I can't even list. I hope I've been just as good a friend to her, and it honestly feels like what we have is way more than just friendship. Jess and I have been best friends since elementary school, and she has been there for every single big occasion in my life. She has stuck with me through abusive relationships, helped deal with overcoming RIP at the hands on my grandfather, and so many more things it's hard to event count. I'd like to think I've been equally as loyal to her, and it almost feels as if our friendship transcends what being friends means. I was the first person Jess came out to, and my mother and I took her in when her religious parents disowned her for being lesbian. Things were hard at that time as I was struggling with sewer-slide thoughts as my relationship was really that bad, physical and verbal as well as mental abuse daily, but we always had each other to lean on. In the past, she has made so many jokes about wishing I was lesbian too, because she believes we are soulmates, and I joked back saying I wish the was. But see, I was straighter than a pole were it to freeze over in the Arctic. Or at least that's what I thought. 2 years ago, Jess and I moved into an apartment together, and it was our first time living alone. We were doing great at the start. Jess had a girlfriend at the time, and the 3 of us would lounge around a lot, but Jess's girlfriend had a psychotic break when her father disappeared to Mexico without a warning, and it caused her to become abusive to Jess. They broke up a year and a half ago, and Jess spent a long time grieving a love that she lost. Well, just over a year ago, tragedy struck. I contracted breast cancer. I remember getting the news and breaking down. I told my family and Jess. I expected my family to support me, but in a sick and twisted turn of fate, they did not. I still don't know why my family turned their back on me, but I suspect it's because I asked my mom to help me out financially with the treatment. I never met my dad, so of course I did not ask him for help. I was not going to go to my grandfather or grandmother either, and so the only person to turn to was Jess. I remember asking her for help in tears, and she agreed. Over the next while, Jess loaned me a lot of money to help with chemotherapy, and she worked 2 full-time jobs to make sure her portion of rent was also paid. She paid for most of the things during the time I had cancer, as I was spending the majority of the money I had on treatment. Despite Jess being severely overworked, she made it a priority to drive me to appointments, make sure I was okay, make sure I was eating, and it bonded us greatly. It was while she was taking care of me that I started developing feelings for her. At first, it was her touch that made me feel some type of way. Whenever she held my hand to sleep, I felt at peace. Then slowly my crush developed, and I would often find myself thinking about her and her smile. I had a lot of internally conflicted feelings about this as I always thought I was straight. But after a lot of self-reflection, I accepted the fact I'm bi, and indeed do have a massive crush on her. Jess's hard work was able to get me through the cancer, and I was able to hit cancer. I was cleared 3 months ago. Jess and I cried in each other's arms. My mother did not reach out to me once during this whole time, by the way. Now, I have had this crush on Jess for about a year, and I never worked up the courage to tell her. But I swear this girl is making it so hard on me. She practically has me sweating. She's doing it to me on purpose, I swear. She knows I like her. She wears crop tops and short shorts. She makes her way the way she knows I think it looks good on her. She constantly touches me, holds my hand playfully, hugs me from behind if I'm sitting on the couch. Last night, she looked into my eyes and told me, "I'm so glad you made it. Just seeing you thriving makes me smile so much." And she pulled me in for a hug. Oh yeah, and she came out of the shower this morning and walked around the house still dripping wet, with 2 small separate towels, one covering her chest and one covering her no-no square, and then proceeded to make me touch her new belly button ring. I think she likes me. She has to, right? Right? I needed to know. The uncertainty was killing me. Every time she touched me, every lingering glance, every casual brush of her fingers against mine sent electricity through my entire body. I couldn't take it anymore. I found her in the kitchen that afternoon, humming while she made lunch. She'd changed into one of her typical outfits, a purple crop top that showed her toned stomach, and those jean shorts that made my brain short circuit. I gripped the doorframe trying to steady myself. "Hey," I managed, my voice coming out rougher than intended. She turned, and that smile, God, that smile that had gotten me through chemo, through the darkest nights when I thought I wouldn't make it, lit up her face. "Hey yourself, want a sandwich?" I shook my head, stepping into the kitchen. My hands were trembling. "Jess, we need to talk." The smile faltered slightly. She set down the knife she'd been using to spread peanut butter. "Everything okay? Are you feeling sick? Do we need to go to the hospital?" No, nothing like that. I took a deep breath. This was it. "It's about us." She went very still. "Us?" I moved closer, close enough to see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. "I know what you're doing. The clothes, the touching, the everything. You know, don't you? You know how I feel about you." Her eyes widened. "How you feel about me. Don't play dumb, Jess. Please." My voice cracked. "I can't do this dance anymore. I'm in love with you. I've been in love with you for months, maybe longer, and I think you feel the same way." The silence stretched between us. She stared at me, mouth slightly open, and I felt my heart plummeting. Had I misread everything? Had I just ruined the most important relationship in my life? Then she laughed. Not a cruel laugh, but a breathless, disbelieving sound. "You're in love with me?" "Yes," I whispered. "You, the straightest girl I've ever known. You're in love with me." "I'm bi, actually. Figured that out during treatment." I tried to smile, but it felt wobbly. "Surprise?" She covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. For a terrifying moment, I thought she was crying. Then I realized she was laughing again. "Jess?" She dropped her hands, and there were tears in her eyes, but she was grinning. "Do you have any idea how long I've been in love with you?" My heart stopped. "What?" "Years. Literal years." She stepped closer, and suddenly we were inches apart. Since high school, at least. Maybe earlier. I used to lie awake at night thinking about what it would be like to kiss you. When I made those jokes about wishing you were gay, I was testing the waters, hoping maybe, somehow, you'd realize. But you never said anything. How could I? Her voice was soft. "You were straight. You were my best friend. I couldn't risk losing you. And then when you got sick," she swallowed hard. "All I could think about was keeping you alive. Nothing else mattered." I thought about all those nights during chemo when she'd held my hand, stroking my hair as I threw up, whispering that everything would be okay. I thought about her working herself to exhaustion, coming home at 2 a.m. from her second job and still making sure I had taken my medications. The clothes? I asked. The touching? She blushed. I wasn't. Okay, maybe I was trying to get your attention. After you hit cancer, after we had that moment in the hospital, something felt different. The way you looked at me changed. I thought maybe I was imagining it, but then you started blushing whenever I touched you, and you'd stare when you thought I wasn't looking. You noticed that? I notice everything about you. She reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. I've been going crazy these past few weeks, trying to figure out if I was reading the signals right. This morning with the belly button ring, that was me being desperate. I was going to tell you today, actually. I couldn't take it anymore either. We stood there, breathing the same air, her hand still touching my face. 20 years of friendship, of shared secrets and inside jokes, of being each other's person through everything life threw at us. And now this. So what happens now? I whispered. Now? She smiled, that mischievous grin I'd fallen in love with. Now I do something I've wanted to do for a very long time. She kissed me. It wasn't like the kisses I'd had before, with men who didn't really see me, who I'd dated because I thought I was supposed to. This was Jess. This was coming home. Her lips were soft and sure against mine, one hand tangling in my hair while the other settled on my waist. I melted into her, years of suppressed feelings pouring out in that single moment. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. I rested my forehead against hers, trying to process what had just happened. Wow, I breathed. Yeah, she agreed. Wow, was it worth the wait? She pulled back enough to look me in the eyes. You're worth everything. The wait, the work, all of it. When you got sick and your family just abandoned you, her voice hardened with old anger. I wanted to hunt them down and make them pay for hurting you, but then I realized I got to be the one taking care of you. I got to be your person. And even though I hate that you had to go through that, I'm grateful I got to show you how much you mean to me. Tears pricked my eyes. You saved my life, Jess. Literally. You saved mine first. She kissed me again, quick and sweet. Do you remember when my parents kicked me out? I was 17, scared, convinced I was broken and wrong and unlovable. And you and your mom just opened your door like it was nothing. You held me while I cried. You told me I was perfect exactly as I was. You are perfect. See? She grinned. This is why I fell in love with you. We kissed again, longer this time, and I discovered that kissing your best friend is actually the best thing in the world because you already know everything about each other. I knew she liked to be touched just below her ear. She knew I was ticklish on my sides. We fit together like we'd been doing this forever. The sandwich supply sat forgotten on the counter. We migrated to the couch, curled up together in a way that was familiar but thrillingly new. I traced patterns on her arm while she played with my hair. I can't believe this is real, I admitted. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up. She pressed a kiss to my temple. I've had dreams like this. Yeah? Usually they involved less clothing though. I smacked her arm, laughing. Jess! What? I'm just being honest. Do you know how distracting those yoga pants you wear are? I've walked into walls. You have not. I absolutely have. Ask Mackenzie from work. She's witnessed it multiple times. We dissolved into giggles, and it struck me how easy this was. All my fears about ruining our friendship seemed silly now. We were still us. Just more. Hey, I said when our laughter died down. What do we do about everyone else? I mean, my family doesn't talk to me anymore anyway. But your parents. Her expression darkened. They made their choice. They don't get to have opinions about my life anymore. I know, but no buts. She cupped my face in her hands. I've spent years hiding parts of myself, dimming my light to make other people comfortable. I'm done with that. I love you. I want to be with you. I want to hold your hand in public and kiss you whenever I feel like it and introduce you as my girlfriend. If people have a problem with that, they can deal with it themselves. Girlfriend, I repeated, testing the word. I like the sound of that. Yeah? Yeah. I kissed her nose. Though it's weird, right? We've basically been dating for years already. We live together. We share everything. We've seen each other at our worst. We just forgot the kissing part. She agreed. Though I vote we make up for lost time. I second that motion. She pulled me closer, and I marveled at how different everything felt now. The apartment we'd shared for 2 years suddenly seemed brighter. The future, which had felt so uncertain after my diagnosis, now stretched before us full of possibility. I love you, I said, because I could now. Because I'd wanted to say it for months in exactly this way. I love you too, she replied. So much it scares me sometimes. Don't be scared. I intertwined our fingers. We've survived everything else together. We can handle this. She squeezed my hand. You're right. We're unstoppable. We spent the rest of the afternoon on that couch, talking and kissing and reveling in this new dimension to our relationship. She told me about all the times she'd almost confessed her feelings. After my college graduation, the night we signed our apartment lease, during a particularly wine-heavy girls' night, I shared my own journey of realization, how taking care of me during cancer had revealed the depth of her love in a way that transcended friendship. I think I started falling for you when you shaved your head with me, I admitted. When I was losing my hair from chemo and crying because I felt so ugly, and you just grabbed the clippers and said, bet I'll look better bald than you will. You didn't hesitate. You're beautiful no matter what, she said firmly. Hair, no hair, sick, healthy, dressed up, in pajamas, always beautiful to me. As the sun set, painting our living room in shades of gold and pink, I thought about how much had changed in just a few hours. This morning I'd been twisted in knots, overanalyzing every interaction. Now I was curled against Jess's side, her arm around me, feeling more at peace than I had in years. We should probably eat actual food at some point, she murmured against my hair. Probably, I agreed, making no move to get up. Or we could order pizza and make out some more. I like option 2, she laughed, reaching for her phone. As she placed our usual order, large pepperoni with extra cheese, breadsticks on the side, I watched her and felt overwhelming gratitude wash over me. This woman had stood by me through everything. She'd sacrificed so much to keep me alive when my own family had turned away. She'd loved me quietly and steadfastly for years without asking for anything in return. Hey, I said when she hung up. Thank you. For ordering pizza? It's really not a big, for everything. For loving me. For waiting for me. For taking care of me when no one else would. For being my person. Her eyes softened. You don't have to thank me for that. I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. I know. That's why I love you. She kissed me then, slow and deep, and I thought about how many years we'd wasted. But no, they weren't wasted. Every moment had led us here, to this couch, to this kiss, to this perfect understanding between us. When the pizza arrived, we ate it straight from the box, laughing as cheese strings stretched between slices. It was wonderfully normal, except for the way she kept looking at me like I'd hung the moon, and the way I couldn't stop touching her hand, her knee, her face. So what now? I asked as we polished off the last slice. I mean, we already live together. We can't exactly do the whole U-Haul lesbian thing, she snorted. Please, we U-Hauled years ago. We're practically married already. Jess! What? It's true. She pulled me against her side. But if you're asking what changes, I guess we'll figure it out as we go. Maybe we can actually go on dates now instead of pretending we're just hanging out. I can finally take you to that fancy restaurant downtown I've been wanting to try. I'd like that. I traced circles on her knee. And maybe we can tell people? I mean, the people who matter. Your work friends, my cousins who still talk to me. Benny's going to say I told you so, she groaned. He's been insisting we're in love for literally years. Well, he was right. Don't tell him that. His ego's big enough as it is. We talked until late into the night, making plans and sharing dreams we'd kept hidden. She wanted to travel with me once I was fully cleared by my doctors. I wanted to go back to school, maybe study something I was actually passionate about instead of what I thought I should do. We both wanted a dog, maybe two, a house someday, with a garden where we could grow vegetables. Kids? She asked tentatively. Maybe, I said, surprising myself. I never thought about it before, but with you. Yeah, maybe. She squeezed me tighter. We have time to figure it all out. Time. Such a precious thing when you'd face the possibility of running out of it. But I'd struck cancer, and now I had Jess not just as my best friend, but as my girlfriend, my partner, my everything. We had all the time in the world. As we finally headed to bed, together, in her room, because mine suddenly seemed unnecessarily far away, I paused in the doorway. Hey Jess? Yeah? Those jokes you used to make about us being soulmates? She grinned. Yeah? You were right about that too. I usually am, she said smugly, then squealed when I threw a pillow at her. We fell asleep tangled together, her steady breathing against my neck, her arm protective around my waist. Tomorrow we'd start navigating this new phase of our relationship. We'd deal with whatever challenges came our way, just like we always had. But tonight, in the quiet darkness of the room we'd now share, with the woman I loved holding me close, everything was perfect. I was home. The next morning brought complications neither of us had anticipated. I woke to find 17 missed calls from my mother on my phone. My stomach dropped as I stared at the screen, Jess still sleeping peacefully beside me. After months of silence during my cancer treatment, why was she calling now? Against my better judgment, I slipped out of bed and called her back. She answered on the first ring. Finally! I've been trying to reach you all night. Your grandmother had a stroke. She's in the hospital and asking for you. The words hit me like a physical blow. Despite everything, despite the abandonment during my illness, family ties ran deep. I found myself agreeing to visit, even as a voice in my head screamed that this was a mistake. Jess drove me to the hospital that afternoon, her jaw tight with barely contained anger. She'd argued against going, reminding me how they'd all turned their backs when I needed them most. But she understood my need for closure, even if she didn't agree with it. The hospital waiting room was filled with relatives I hadn't seen in over a year. Conversations stopped when I walked in. My mother stood up, looking older than I remembered, her face pinched with an expression I couldn't read. You came, she said simply. She's my grandmother, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. What followed was an awkward dance of half-hearted greetings and stilted conversation. Nobody mentioned my cancer. Nobody asked how I was doing. It was as if the past year had been erased, and I was expected to slot back into my role as the dutiful daughter and granddaughter. My grandmother was awake when they finally let me see her. She looked frail against the white hospital sheets, but her eyes were sharp as ever. There's my girl, she wheezed, reaching for my hand. I was worried I wouldn't see you again. I took her hand carefully, emotions warring in my chest. This woman had stood by while my grandfather hurt me. She'd chosen silence over protecting her granddaughter. Yet here I was, drawn by invisible threads of obligation and complicated love. I'm here, I said softly. I need to tell you something, she said, her grip surprisingly strong. About your mother. About why we all. But before she could continue, my mother burst into the room. That's enough, Mom. You need to rest. My grandmother's eyes flashed with frustration, but she was too weak to argue. As my mother ushered me out, my grandmother called after me, come back tomorrow, please. In the car, Jess was quiet as I recounted the strange encounter. Finally, she said, something's not right. Why does your mom not want your grandmother talking to you? I had no answer, but the question gnawed at me. Against Jess's protests, I returned the next day alone while she was at work. This time, I made sure to arrive when I knew my mother would be at her job. My grandmother was more alert, almost eager when she saw me. Good, you're here. We don't have much time. Grandma, what's going on? She took a shaky breath. Your mother. She's in trouble. Deep financial trouble. She borrowed money from the wrong people trying to keep up appearances after your father left. When you got sick and asked for help, she paused, coughing weakly. She was already drowning. She couldn't help you without exposing everything. I sat back, stunned. So she just abandoned me instead? She was ashamed and scared. These people she owes. They're not patient. They've been pressuring her, threatening her. She's been trying to protect you by keeping you away. Protect me? I laughed bitterly. I had cancer. I needed my family. I know, sweetheart. We failed you. I failed you. Tears tracked down her wrinkled cheeks. But now they know about you. About your recovery. They think you might have money from insurance or savings. Your mother's been trying to keep them away from you, but a cold dread settled in my stomach. But what? They've been watching you. That nice girl you live with, they know about her too. They think she has money since she helped with your treatment. I stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. They're watching Jess? My grandmother nodded weakly. Your mother's been trying to handle it, but she's in over her head. These people, they don't make empty threats. I left the hospital in a daze, my mind racing. As I drove home, I kept checking the rearview mirror, newly paranoid about every car that seemed to follow too closely. How long had we been watched? How much did they know about our lives? When I got home, Jess was already there, and I could tell immediately something was wrong. She was pacing the living room, her phone clutched in her hand. What happened? I asked. Someone broke into my car at work, she said, her voice shaky. They didn't take anything, but they left this. She handed me a piece of paper. In block letters it read, your girlfriend's family has debts. Time to pay up. We stared at each other, the weight of the threat hanging between us. In that moment, our newfound happiness felt fragile, threatened by shadows from my past I hadn't even known existed. We need to go to the police, Jess said firmly. But I thought about my mother, already drowning, and how much worse things could get if we involved law enforcement. Wait, let me talk to my mom first. Maybe we can figure this out without what? Without protecting ourselves? Jess's voice rose. These people are threatening us because of your mother's choices. Choices that led her to abandon you when you were dying. She was right, but the situation was more complicated than she knew. I told her everything my grandmother had revealed, watching her expression shift from anger to disbelief to a cold fury I'd never seen before. So let me get this straight, she said slowly. Your mother borrowed money from dangerous people, couldn't pay it back, and now they're coming after us? After everything we've been through? I know it's insane. It's beyond insane. She ran her hands through her hair. I worked 2 jobs to keep you alive while your mother was what? Hiding from loan sharks? And now they think we're their next payday? The stress of the situation created our first real fight as a couple. Jess wanted to pack up and leave town immediately. I felt obligated to help my mother despite everything. We went to bed that night on opposite sides of the mattress, the distance between us feeling like miles. The next morning, I woke to find Jess already up, sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept much. I've been researching, she said without preamble, looking into our options. We can't run. I have work, you have follow-up appointments, but we can't just wait for these people to escalate either. What do you suggest? She looked at me then, and I saw the fear beneath her determined expression. We meet with your mother, find out exactly how much she owes and to whom, then we figure out if there's any way to resolve this that doesn't put us in danger. I reached across the table and took her hand. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you got dragged into this. Hey, she squeezed my fingers. We're in this together, remember? Your mess is my mess. That's what love means. That afternoon, we met my mother at a coffee shop downtown. She looked haggard, her usual put-together appearance replaced by wrinkled clothes and unkempt hair. When she saw us together, holding hands, her expression flickered with something I couldn't identify. So it's true, she said quietly. You two are. Together, yes, I said firmly. And before you say anything about that, remember you lost the right to have opinions about my life when you abandoned me during chemo. She flinched but didn't argue. Instead, she laid out the whole sordid story. After my father left, she'd tried to maintain the lifestyle she was accustomed to. Credit cards led to personal loans, which led to borrowing from increasingly sketchy sources. The interest rates were crushing, and she'd been juggling payments for years. How much? Jess asked bluntly. My mother named a figure that made my stomach drop. It was more than Jess and I had in our combined savings, more than we could hope to raise quickly. I've been trying to pay them off in installments, my mother continued. But when you got sick and asked for help, I knew if I gave you money, I'd miss payments. And these people, they don't accept excuses. So you chose them over your daughter's life, Jess said coldly. My mother's face crumpled. I thought I was protecting her. If I'd helped with treatment and defaulted on the loans, they would have come after her sooner. I thought if I kept my distance, kept them focused on me, well, that worked out great, I said bitterly. They found us anyway. We left the meeting with more questions than answers. My mother promised to try negotiating with her creditors, but we all knew it was a long shot. These weren't the kind of people who accepted payment plans. Over the next few days, the harassment escalated. Jess found her tires slashed. I received anonymous calls at all hours. Someone spray-painted "pay up" on our apartment door. Our landlord threatened eviction if we brought any more drama to the building. The stress began taking its toll on our relationship. We snapped at each other over small things. Jess started working overtime to save money, coming home exhausted and distant. I found myself checking locks obsessively, jumping at every unexpected noise. One night, I woke to find Jess sitting by the window, peering through the blinds. What are you doing? I asked groggily. There's been a car parked across the street for 3 hours, she said. Same one that was there yesterday. I joined her at the window, and sure enough, a dark sedan sat under a broken streetlight. As we watched, a cigarette glowed briefly in the darkness. This has to stop, Jess whispered. We can't live like this. She was right. The next day, while she was at work, I made a decision that would change everything. I called my mother and arranged to meet with her creditors directly. If they wanted money, they could talk to me face to face. It was stupid and dangerous, but I was desperate to protect the life Jess and I had built together. I couldn't let my mother's mistakes destroy the happiness we'd found after surviving so much. The meeting was set for that evening at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap, but I went anyway. I left Jess a note explaining everything, telling her I loved her and that I was doing this for us. The warehouse was exactly as ominous as expected. 3 men waited inside, the kind of people who looked like they broke kneecaps for fun. My mother was there too, looking terrified. So you're the daughter, the apparent leader said, circling me slowly. You look healthy for someone who had cancer. Treatment must have gone well. What do you want? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Simple. Your mother owes us money. A lot of money. Money she doesn't have. He smiled, and it was all teeth. But you seem resourceful. That girlfriend of yours, working 2 jobs to save your life. Very touching. Leave Jess out of this. Oh, but she's already in it, isn't she? Living with you, sharing expenses, sharing everything. His implication made my skin crawl. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pay your mother's debt. All of it. You have 1 month. That's impossible. We don't have that kind of money. Then you better find it. Sell things. Take out loans. That girlfriend seems devoted. Maybe she has family who could help? He leaned closer. 1 month, or things get very unpleasant for everyone you care about. I was about to respond when the warehouse door burst open. Jess stood there breathing hard, her face a mask of fury. Get away from her, she snarled. The men laughed. And here's the girlfriend now. How sweet. Jess moved to my side, grabbing my hand. We're leaving. Now, you leave when I say you can leave, the leader said, his friendly facade dropping. What happened next was a blur. One of the men moved to block our path. Jess, who'd apparently taken self-defense classes I didn't know about, dropped him with a knee to the groin. We ran, hand in hand, as shouts erupted behind us. We made it to Jess's car and peeled out of the parking lot, my heart hammering against my ribs. Neither of us spoke until we were miles away. You followed me, I said finally. Of course I followed you. She was shaking. Whether from fear or anger, I couldn't tell. Did you really think I just let you meet with dangerous criminals alone? What were you thinking? I was thinking I needed to protect you. By putting yourself in danger? By making decisions that affect both of us without even talking to me? She pulled over suddenly, turning to face me. We're supposed to be partners. That means we face things together, not you running off playing hero. She was right. In trying to protect her, I'd almost made everything worse. I'm sorry, I whispered. I couldn't bear the thought of you getting hurt because of my family's mess. Your family's mess became our mess the moment we became an us, she said firmly. No more secrets. No more solo rescue missions. We handle this together or not at all. I nodded, relief flooding through me when she pulled me into a fierce hug. We stayed like that for a long moment, clinging to each other in the dark car. So what do we do now? I asked against her shoulder. Now we go home, pack our essentials, and stay with Mackenzie for a few days while we figure out our next move, she said. And tomorrow, we're going to the police. I don't care about your mother's situation anymore. These people threatened you. They threatened us. That's where I draw the line. As we drove home, I thought about how much had changed in just a few days. Our perfect new beginning had been shattered by shadows from my past. But Jess was still here, still fighting for us, still choosing me even when things got dangerous and complicated. The apartment felt different when we returned, violated by the knowledge that we were being watched. We packed quickly, grabbing clothes and important documents. As I threw items into a suitcase, I found the photo from our first night as a couple, just days ago. We looked so happy, so unaware of what was coming. Hey, Jess said softly, seeing what I was looking at. We'll get back to that. This is just a detour, not the end. How can you be so sure? She took my face in her hands. Because we've survived worse. Because I love you. Because those jerks don't get to win. She kissed me softly. We're going to get through this, and then we're going to have the life we planned. The restaurant dates, the trips, the garden, all of it. Her certainty gave me strength. We finished packing and headed to Mackenzie's place across town. She welcomed us without question, setting up an air mattress in her spare room and pretending not to notice when we both jumped at every car backfire. That night, lying on the uncomfortable air mattress with Jess curled around me protectively, I made a decision. My mother's choices had already cost me so much. My family support during cancer, my sense of security, and now threatened the new life I was building with Jess. I wouldn't let them cost me anything more. Tomorrow we go to the police, I whispered into the darkness. Yeah? Jess's arms tightened around me. Yeah, you're right. We can't handle this alone, and I'm done protecting people who didn't protect me. I'm proud of you, she murmured against my neck. I know how hard this is. It was hard. Despite everything, part of me still felt obligated to help my mother, but a larger part, the part that had survived cancer and found love in the most unexpected place, knew that sometimes you had to choose your own life over family loyalty. The next morning brought new challenges. My phone had dozens of missed calls from unknown numbers and my mother. The texts from her grew increasingly frantic. Don't go to the police. You don't understand what they'll do. Please let me handle this. But Jess and I had made our decision. We drove to the police station together, hands clasped tightly between us. The detective who took our statement was professional but honest about our options. These sound like serious people, he said, reviewing the threats. We can increase patrols around your apartment, but unless they make a direct move, there's limited action we can take. So we just wait for them to hurt us? Jess asked incredulously. I'm not saying that. Document everything. Change your routines. Consider staying somewhere else for a while. He paused. And if your mother is willing to cooperate, we might be able to build a larger case. That was the problem. My mother wasn't willing to cooperate. When I called to tell her we'd gone to the police, she broke down sobbing, begging me to recant, saying I'd doomed us all. The guilt was crushing, but Jess kept me steady, reminding me that my mother had made her choices long before any of this. We stayed with Mackenzie for a week, during which the harassment seemed to pause. Maybe the increased police presence had scared them off, or maybe they were regrouping. Either way, the respite was welcome. During that week, Jess and I grew even closer. Mackenzie worked long hours, leaving us alone in her apartment. We cooked together, watched movies, and talked about everything except the situation hanging over our heads. It was almost like playing house, imagining what our life would be like when this was all over. One evening, as we prepared dinner together, Jess suddenly stopped chopping vegetables and turned to me. I've been thinking, she said slowly. What if we just left? Left? Started over somewhere new. I could transfer with my company. You could continue your recovery anywhere. We could leave all this behind. Your family, these threats, all of it. The idea was tempting. A fresh start where no one knew our history, where we could just be two women in love without the weight of family drama and dangerous debts. What about your life here? I asked. Your friends? Your job? I'd have you, she said simply. That's all I really need. I pulled her into a kiss, overwhelmed by the depth of her love. Let me think about it, I whispered against her lips. That night, I lay awake considering our options. Running felt like giving up, but staying meant living in constant fear. What kind of life was that? What kind of relationship could we build while looking over our shoulders? The decision was taken out of our hands the next day. Mackenzie came home early from work, pale and shaken. There were men at my office asking about you two, she said. They knew you were staying here. We were out of her apartment within an hour, guilt eating at me for bringing danger to Jess's friend. We checked into a cheap motel on the edge of town, paying cash, trying to stay off the grid. This isn't sustainable, Jess said as we sat on the questionable motel bedspread. We can't live like fugitives. She was right. That night, I made 2 phone calls. The first was to my mother, giving her an ultimatum. Cooperate with the police or lose me forever. The second was to a lawyer, to understand our legal options. My mother chose self-preservation over her daughter. Again, she refused to cooperate, insisting she could handle things her way. The lawyer was more helpful, explaining that while we couldn't be held responsible for my mother's debts, the harassment and threats were criminal matters the police should pursue more aggressively. Armed with legal backing, we returned to the police station. This time, we spoke with a detective who specialized in organized crime. He took our case more seriously, especially when we showed him the escalating threats and evidence of stalking. We can put you in touch with victim services, he offered. They can help with temporary relocation, security measures, even counseling. It wasn't witness protection, but it was something. We spent the next few days working with various agencies, setting up safety plans and security systems. Our apartment was fitted with new locks and cameras. We varied our routines, checked in regularly with police, and slowly began to reclaim our lives. The threats didn't stop entirely, but they became less direct. My mother sent periodic messages about making things worse and not understanding the consequences, but I'd learned to delete them unread. She'd chosen her path, and I'd chosen mine. 3 weeks into our new security routine, something shifted. The watchers disappeared. The threatening calls stopped. At first, we were more paranoid, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then the detective called with news. We arrested several members of the organization your mother was involved with, he explained. Turns out they were connected to larger operations we'd been investigating. Your cooperation helped us build a stronger case. So it's over? I asked, hardly daring to hope. The immediate threat appears to be neutralized. We'll keep monitoring the situation, but I think you can start breathing easier. I hung up and found Jess in the living room, curled up with a book. It's over, I said, still not quite believing it. She looked up, hope blooming across her face. Really? Really? She launched herself at me, and we held each other, laughing and crying simultaneously. The weight that had been crushing us for weeks finally lifted. We survived, she whispered. Again, we did. That night, we celebrated quietly, cooking a nice dinner and opening a bottle of wine we'd been saving. As we sat together on the couch, the same couch where we'd first kissed what felt like a lifetime ago, I marveled at our resilience. I'm sorry, I said suddenly, for everything my family put you through. You signed up to date me, not deal with loan sharks and death threats. Jess set down her wine glass and took my hands. Listen to me. I signed up for you. All of you. Your past, your family drama, your struggles, they're all part of what made you who you are, and I love who you are. Even the messy parts? Especially the messy parts. She smiled. Besides, my family disowned me for being gay. We both have complicated histories. That's what makes us work. We understand each other. She was right. We'd both been rejected by by blood family and found something stronger in each other. The past weeks had tested our new relationship in ways most couples never experience, and we'd come through stronger. So, Jess said, a mischievous glint returning to her eyes, now that we're not running from criminals, can we go on that proper date I promised? I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. I would love that. Good, because I made reservations at that fancy downtown place for Friday. She grinned, figured we deserved something special after all this. As we planned our first real date, discussing what to wear and whether we needed to brush up on wine terminology, I felt the last of the tension drain away. We'd weathered the storm brought by my mother's choices. We'd stood together against threats and fear. Now, finally, we could focus on building the life we'd dreamed about. The journey from best friends to lovers had taken an unexpected detour through danger and family drama, but we'd emerged intact. More than intact. We were stronger, more committed, more certain of our choice to be together. Looking at Jess in the soft lamplight, seeing the love and determination in her eyes, I knew we could handle whatever came next. We'd already proven that our bond could survive cancer, family abandonment, and criminal threats. After all that, normal relationship challenges would be a breeze. I love you, I said, needing her to hear it, to know it with the same certainty I felt. I love you too, she replied, pulling me close, no matter what. And I believed her. We'd been tested by fire and emerged unburnt. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. I still had follow-up appointments for my cancer. We needed to repair relationships damaged by the recent chaos. And there was the matter of my mother, who I'd probably lost forever. But tonight, safe in our apartment with the woman who'd chosen me again and again, I was exactly where I belonged. The middle of our story had been nothing like the fairy tale beginning. It had been messy and dangerous and complicated, but it had also shown us the depth of our commitment, the strength of our love, and the power of choosing each other over everything else. As we headed to bed, Jess paused in the doorway of what was now our shared room. Hey, she said softly, we're going to be okay, aren't we? I took her hand, threading our fingers together. We're going to be more than okay. We're going to be amazing. And despite everything we'd been through, or maybe because of it, I knew it was true. We'd found our way through the darkness. Now it was time to step into the light. The detective's words should have brought relief, but something felt off. I hung up the phone and stared at it, my gut churning with unease. Jess noticed immediately. What's wrong? She asked, setting down her book. I don't know. Something about how he said it. I replayed the conversation in my mind. He said the immediate threat was neutralized, not that it was over. Jess's expression hardened. Call him back. I did, but the detective's line went straight to voicemail. 3 more attempts yielded the same result. My hands started shaking. Maybe he's just busy, I said, but even I didn't believe it. Jess was already at the window peering through the blinds. That car's back. Different spot, same model. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Nice try with the police, a gravelly voice said. Did you really think a few arrests would make this go away? Your mother's debt just got transferred to new management, and we're less patient than the last guys. The line went dead. I looked at Jess, who'd gone pale. Pack, she said. Now. We threw essentials into bags, moving with practiced efficiency after weeks of this routine. As I grabbed my medications from the bathroom, I heard Jess on the phone with Mackenzie, warning her to be careful. My phone rang again. My mother. Don't answer it, Jess said, but I'd already hit accept. They're coming, my mother gasped. I tried to warn you. The police raid just made them angry. They think I set it up, that you and I planned it together. Where are you? I asked, despite everything. It doesn't matter. Just run. Get as far away as you can. I'm so sorry, baby, for everything. The line cut off. I tried calling back, but it went straight to a disconnected message. Jess grabbed my hand. We're leaving. Now. We made it to the parking garage without incident. Jess's car started on the first try, and we pulled out slowly, both scanning for threats. The dark sedan wasn't visible, but that meant nothing. Where are we going? I asked as Jess navigated through side streets. Bus station. We'll buy tickets with cash, go somewhere random, give us time to think. But as we turned onto the main road, Jess slammed on the brakes. 3 cars had boxed us in. One ahead, one behind, one pulling alongside. Men emerged from each vehicle, moving with coordinated precision. Hold on, Jess said, throwing the car in reverse. She clipped the car behind us, metal screeching as she forced an opening. We shot backward. Then she yanked the wheel hard left, tires screaming. The men shouted, scrambling back to their vehicles. Jess drove like someone possessed, taking turns at dangerous speeds, running red lights. I gripped the door handle, trusting her completely even as my heart threatened to burst from my chest. Behind us, headlights gave chase. Call 911, she ordered. I did, giving our location and situation to the dispatcher. The woman promised units were on the way, but I could hear the doubt in her voice. We were just another hysterical call about being followed. Jess took a hard right into an industrial area, warehouses flashing past. The pursuing cars stayed close. She suddenly culled the headlights and veered into an alley between 2 buildings, barely wide enough for the car. We sat in the darkness, engine off, hardly breathing. The pursuing cars roared past the alley entrance. 1, 2. We waited, counting heartbeats. After 5 minutes, Jess started the engine again, keeping the lights off as she crept out the other end of the alley. Mackenzie's cousin Benny has a cabin, she said quietly. About 3 hours north. He owes me a favor. We can hide there while we figure out next steps. I nodded, trusting her plan. We drove in tense silence, taking a circuitous route out of the city. Every set of headlights made us both freeze. At a gas station 2 towns over, Jess paid cash to fill up while I bought supplies, water, non-perishable food, first aid basics. The cashier, a bored teenager, barely looked at me. I envied his normalcy, his biggest worry probably being homework or weekend plans. When had my life become this surreal nightmare? Back in the car, Jess took my hand. We're going to get through this. How? The word came out broken. They're not going to stop. My mother's debt, whatever it is, it's like a curse that keeps getting passed on. And now they think we conspired with the police. Then we make it stop, Jess said firmly. Whatever it takes. The cabin materialized out of the darkness after we'd driven down an unmarked dirt road for 20 minutes. It was small but solid, surrounded by thick forest. Jess retrieved a key from under a fake rock and we hurried inside. The interior was basic. 1 main room with a kitchenette, a bedroom, a bathroom. Jess immediately checked all the windows and doors while I unpacked our supplies. My hands shook as I arranged canned goods on the counter, the mundane task grounding me slightly. No cell service, Jess reported, checking her phone. There's a landline for emergencies. We sat on the worn couch, exhaustion hitting us both at once. The adrenaline crash crash left me feeling hollow and disconnected. Jess pulled me against her side. What are we doing? I whispered. We can't hide forever. We're buying time to think, she said. To make a plan that doesn't involve running scared. That night we barely slept. Every forest sound made us jump. Jess kept getting up to peer out windows, and I found myself checking and rechecking the door locks. When dawn finally broke, we were both hollow-eyed and jittery. Over instant coffee, we tried to strategize. The police were compromised or incompetent. My mother was either in hiding or worse. The debt collectors had resources and reach we couldn't match. What if we went public? I suggested. Social media, news outlets, make it harder for them to operate. Jess shook her head. And paint bigger targets on ourselves? These aren't people who care about public opinion. She was right. We spent the morning brainstorming increasingly desperate ideas. Fake our deaths, flee the country, try to negotiate directly. Each option seemed more impossible than the last. Around noon, the landline rang. We both froze. It rang again, shrill in the quiet cabin. On the fifth ring, Jess answered. Hello? Her face went white. She held the phone out to me. It's for you. I took it with trembling hands. Yes? Enjoying the cabin? The voice was smooth, amused. Nice of you to pick somewhere so isolated. Makes our job easier. How did you find you? Please. Your girlfriend's not as clever as she thinks. We've been tracking her car since you left the city. Gave you a head start to see where you'd run. My blood turned to ice. I looked at Jess, who was already moving, peeking out windows. What do you want? I asked. Same thing we've always wanted. Payment. Your mother owes $300,000. With interest and inconvenience fees, call it $400. You have 1 hour to agree to our payment plan, or we come collect in person. We don't have that kind of money. Then you'll work it off, both of you. We have enterprises that could use smart women like yourselves. Your girlfriend's quite pretty. That's valuable in certain markets. Bile rose in my throat. I'm talking about debt resolution. 1 hour. We'll call back. The line went dead. I dropped the phone, my whole body shaking. Jess wrapped her arms around me. We're leaving, she said. Right now. But through the window, we could see a black SUV parked at the end of the dirt road, blocking our exit. We were trapped. The woods, Jess said. We go on foot. There's a town about 10 miles east. The landline rang again. This time I answered. Running would be unwise, the voice said. Check the bedroom closet. We left you something. Against every instinct, I went to the bedroom. Jess close behind. In the closet was a duffel bag. Inside, neatly wrapped bills and a note. Down payment. Take it and we own you. Leave it and we come for you. Choose. It's a trap, Jess said immediately. Of course it's a trap. I stared at the money, but what choice do we have? We always have a choice. She took my face in her hands. I won't let them take you. I won't let them turn us into whatever they're planning. Then what do we do? She was quiet for a long moment. Then, we fight back. Not physically. We'd lose. But these people, they're businessmen, right? They care about money above all else, I guess? Then we make ourselves worthless to them. Too expensive to pursue. She grabbed the duffel bag. We take this, and we burn it. What? Think about it. They're watching. They see us destroy their money, they'll know we're serious. We can't be bought or intimidated into compliance. The cost of forcing us will outweigh the debt. It was insane. But so was everything else about our situation. We built a fire in the clearing behind the cabin, in full view of the road. The SUV's occupants would see everything. Jess doused the money with lighter fluid from the cabin's supplies. Wait, I said as she held the match. What if this makes things worse? They're already planning to traffic us. How much worse can it get? She looked at me steadily. I'd rather die fighting than live as their property. I thought about everything we'd survived. Cancer, family abandonment, weeks of terror. We'd faced it all together. This was just one more battle. Do it, I said. The money went up in flames. We stood there, hands linked, watching what might have been our death sentence burn. The smoke rose into the clear mountain air, black and acrid. The landline rang. Neither of us moved to answer it. It rang and rang, then stopped. Started again. Stopped. Through the trees, we saw movement. Men emerging from the SUV, heading our way. Jess squeezed my hand. Whatever happens, she said, I love you. I love you too. But the men stopped at the tree line. One of them was on a phone, gesturing animatedly. They seemed to be arguing. After several tense minutes, they turned and walked back to the SUV. We watched, hardly daring to breathe, as the vehicle reversed down the dirt road and disappeared. Did we just? I couldn't finish the sentence. I don't know. Jess was trembling. Maybe they're regrouping. Maybe. The landline rang again. We looked at each other. On the 10th ring, I answered. Impressive, the smooth voice said. But now it sounded annoyed rather than amused. You've made your point. The debt is written off. You're more trouble than you're worth. That's it? I couldn't believe it. Consider yourselves lucky. Your mother wasn't so fortunate. But you two, you're bad for business. Stay out of our way, and we'll stay out of yours. My mother, is she? Goodbye. The line went dead for the final time. We stayed at the cabin for 3 more days, afraid to believe it was really over. No one came. No calls. When we finally drove back to the city, taking a different route, there were no followers. Our apartment had been ransacked but was empty. Everything of value was gone, but we were alive. We stayed with Mackenzie again while dealing with police reports and insurance claims. The detective who'd originally called me had no record of doing so. Another dead end in a case full of them. My mother never resurfaced. I filed a missing person report, but the police showed little interest. People with gambling debts disappeared all the time, they implied. I grieved for her in complicated ways, angry and sad and guilty by turns. Jess and I slowly rebuilt. New apartment with better security. New routines that included varying our routes and checking for surveillance. The hypervigilance faded gradually, though we both still jumped at unexpected sounds. 6 months later, at my follow-up oncology appointment, the doctor declared me still cancer-free. Jess cried harder than she had during the whole ordeal with the debt collectors. That night, we finally went to that fancy restaurant she'd promised, both of us dressed up and pretending we were normal people on a normal date. We survived, she said over dessert, echoing her words from months ago. We did. So what now? I thought about it. We'd been in survival mode for so long, I'd almost forgotten how to plan for a future. Now we live, I said finally. We just live. And we did. Jess got promoted at work. I enrolled in online classes, studying social work with a focus on helping abuse survivors. We adopted a rescue dog who barked at strangers and slept between us like a furry guardian. The fear never fully left. Sometimes I'd catch Jess checking the locks twice or see her tense when an unfamiliar car parked on our street too long. I had nightmares about burning money and smooth voices making threats. But we faced those moments together, grounding each other in the present. On the anniversary of the day we'd burned the money, Jess proposed. Not with a grand gesture, just quietly over morning coffee, sliding a simple band across the table. I want to make it official, she said. You and me against the world. It always has been, I replied, slipping the ring on. We married at City Hall with Mackenzie and Benny as witnesses. No family on either side. Jess's parents still wouldn't speak to her, and mine were gone in different ways. But we'd learned that family was about who showed up, who stayed, who fought beside you when everything went dark. Our story wasn't a fairy tale. We carried scars, visible and hidden. Trust came hard. Peace felt fragile. But we'd chosen each other through cancer and criminals, through fear and fire. That choice, renewed daily in small acts of love and courage, was enough. The last time I saw anything connected to that terrifying period was a news article about a major crime ring bust. Some of the names sounded familiar. I closed the laptop without reading more. That chapter was over. Jess found me on the couch that night, staring at nothing. You okay? She asked. Yeah, just thinking. She curled against my side, our dog immediately joining the pile. About how different life is now, how we almost lost everything, how we didn't. We're pretty stubborn, she agreed. Pretty lucky too. Maybe. Or maybe we just refused to let them win. I kissed her temple, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. Outside, the world continued its dangers and debts. But inside our small apartment, with my wife and our dog and our hard-won peace, we were safe. We were home. The cancer had brought us together. The criminals had tested us. But in the end, love, stubborn, fierce, unwavering love, had saved us both.